morning. I need to,
Okay.
this is my way. Okay.
Okay. Oh, okay.
How are you? How are you? Good to see you. to see you. How are you? Still, you're going strong. We're trying to learn this. Yeah, our son's winding down last semester, right? We made big decisions now, so we decided to play for US. Decided to do US. He wants to live here for this. Yeah, I'm going to stay here. So then travel back and forth to Orlando. Yeah, well, he's going to be on tour. Yeah, and hopefully it's yes, maybe. Yeah. That's awesome. So I go with the both coaching ecstasy. Right. Yeah. Ecstasy. Yeah, exactly. So I'm working with someone. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, that's fine. So, that's great. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Great. Morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. Family. I mean, we went up to Northern Virginia for a few days. Well, not for a few days. We went up Wednesday night and did Thanksgiving at my brother's house. And then I drove back on Friday morning. I have a brother who's autistic, and it's hard to believe he's 60 in January. But anyway, he takes the train down from Princeton.
Oh.
And so he took it to DC, stayed with us, and then we came down Friday morning and he spent the weekend with us. So it was pretty quiet, but
Yeah.
it was nice. Yeah, you've got the handbook stuff, so you don't need a copy of this, right?
Yeah, I got that.
And there are others that are supposed to be here, so. Hey, Chris? Morning, man. How are you? Good, how are you doing? Good. Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning. How are you?
Good, how are you? Nice Thanksgiving
Yeah, that was nice.
around here.
We were down in Florida
Oh, cool.
for the week, so. Yeah, I was enjoying the
Family or just pleasure?
Yeah, my son's brother and his family are down there. So we stayed with them. It was good. I liked the sun.
Yeah,
It was
change
fun.
of,
How about you? Good Thanksgiving?
yeah, it was,
Did you go up north?
no, we typically have had this monstrosity extended family Thanksgiving. I mean, like literally 60 people type of.
Wow.
Because my family has a farm south here, so we all gathered there.
Gotcha.
But my parents are, they're in a nursing home in Richmond. My father's sister, who's fully functional, still driving at 90, is
Wow.
now like a great grandmother times 4. So
Oh my
they
goodness.
stayed in Richmond. She brought their side of the family to them. So long story short, we took a hiatus. So for me, it was just myself, one of my sons, and my brother.
Oh wow.
And the guy that plays football for Virginia is a friend of my brother. A
Okay.
friend of my son's. So I tried frying a turkey for the first time, which, have you ever had fried turkey, deep fried turkey before?
Yes.
The one I had before was really good. This was very good by turkey standards, but not really great by deep fried turkey standards. And what happened was you got to keep the oil at like 375. And I had a problem getting it back up to the temperature once so I miscalculated how much longer I needed to cook it. So it wasn't dry, but it was probably 5 minutes undercooked.
Yeah.
Because they only cook it for like 35 minutes.
Really?
It's like, excuse me, it's like 3 to 4 minutes a pound. I got the smallest turkey I could find, which is 11 pounds. So we had a lot of turkey sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But it worked out.
Did you get the handouts?
Did not. I mean, I had the one from last week.
Yeah, that should be it. 'Cause
Okay.
We didn't get through.
Yeah.
And I know Alex said he was coming.
That was cute. He just went upstairs.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Alex, which Alex?
Alex just going.
Oh, no.
Okay, and for those of you that are tuning in, I've sent the handout to Chris if you don't have it, so he should be emailing that to you in the next few minutes. We got through, we started listening, we got down through the second page, listings and an overview, and we're down at the bottom where it says actual presentation.
Yes.
You follow me there? All right, so, you know, we've yesterday, just a reminder for folks who listen, obviously if you're online, if you missed last week, you can go back to the YouTube channel and watch what we talked about last week. And Chris sends the email out, so you should have the handouts. But again, the handouts, you know, as Sarah is exhibiting very nicely, is in the roadmap for success that we've put together, and we continue to try to update that as we go along. So if you don't have, or you don't think you have an updated version of the roadmap for success, email Megan, Megan Perry, and she can get that to you. All right, so we've talked about gathering information, previewing properties, preparing the market analysis. I don't want to go back through that. But now we're in a place where we're actually going to do the presentation. If you remember last week or and other times that we've talked about it, there really is something to be said about doing the two-step approach to a listing presentation. It gives you an opportunity to really get to know the property. It gives you an opportunity to really get to know the people, and kind of what they're thinking, and are they going to interview other agents? And it's, you know, from my standpoint, just me, but from my standpoint, it's just more natural to get that information while you're kind of walking through the house. You know, you've got this opportunity to market the property, and so you take the time to, you know, get a feel for the neighborhood. You get time from going through the house and see what kind of condition is, because you can get to this actual presentation and walk in and the place is a disaster, or it doesn't have good street presence, or whatever the case may be, and it can totally change what you really should be covering in the presentation. Now, the more experienced you are, and the more you know the market, maybe you gravitate toward just doing it all at once. But I think, especially as a new agent, or an agent that still doesn't have a big track record, one of the different ways you can differentiate yourself from the get-go is by doing a two-step. Because it's saying, I'm going to take the time to, you're coming, before we even do the presentation, you just want to come by. Yeah, I want to take the time, I want to get to know you. I want to build that rapport. I want to gain the credibility with you. I want to show you I care by follow-up note, that kind of thing, before I come back to the house for the actual interview. But the big thing is, I just need to find out, you get information that you wouldn't have gotten. And it just means that there's going to be less surprises. So it gets to where we are. The more prepared you are, the better the presentation. Why? Because knowledge is going to build confidence. If you've been in the house, you know what you're, you know, you're walking into. You're going to prepare for that listing presentation differently than if you didn't. Sarah, what are you doing? Are you doing one step for the most part at this point, or a little bit of both, or what?
I would say mostly the two-step.
Okay.
Just because for that, I don't feel comfortable doing a full presentation if I haven't seen the property.
Right. Okay. You know, again, when we talk about pricing too, you know, we talk, whether you represent the buyer or represent the seller, our job is to give them a range, right? That I think this is as low as it will sell. I think this is as high as it'll sell. I need you to pick a number in between, right? And if you're in a hurry, then that number should be closer to the bottom. If you've got some time, then you can be at the top. And my way of communicating it is, you go above the number I've given you at the top, or you go below. And that's where the joke is, because who's ever going to go below, right? I think I did one time in the history of my selling real estate to everybody said, no, I want it to be less than that. And they won. I said, you know, you're just going to sell, and it did. Sold just like that day. I mean, I wanted them to be at, I don't know, 185, and they said, no, we want to sell it for 175. I said, but you can get 185. Well, that may be true. We want to sell. Okay, fine. That's fine. And again, I think it's another important part that as realtors representing either a buyer or a seller, we're there to represent what they want, not what we want, right? So in my, I mean, it's a real life example, but I laugh about it. You know, I could have gotten all up in their face and, you know, told them, no, we're going to do it at 185, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what they wanted. You know, the same thing with the buyer. You know, using me as an example as a buyer, I bought a house in Preston that was on a double cul-de-sac. It was close to, right across the street from the elementary school. The middle school was down the street. The high school was behind it. So all three schools, for as long as our kids grew up, my kids never even had to have a car because they literally could walk, whatever. So, and I know I overpaid for that house because it was what we wanted. Now, if I had an agent representing me, which I didn't, they would have probably said to me, Michael, this is probably 10% higher than it needs to be. But I didn't care because that's where I wanted to be. It was a double cul-de-sac. It had a common ground path behind it. It had a little soccer field back in the back so that the kids could just, you know, go out the back door, go down the trail, and there was a soccer field right there that all three schools. And so as an agent, I could have said to them, look, you're paying too much. And if I would have really gotten up in their face or been obstinate about it, they would have probably said, this person's not listening to our interests. And so I think it's important to remember that our job is to help somebody have the information that they need to have to make an educated decision. The decision is theirs, right? At the end of the day, the decision is theirs. It could be that they're buying a house on Huntington Road and the railroad tracks are right behind it. And you know that when they go to sell that house, even though they love it and they love the noise, the train going by at night, that kind of thing, there are other people who don't. And so you give them that information, but if they still decide that that's what they want, well, then we go for that. But we also make sure they understand that when we go to put that back on the market, don't forget I told you that there's going to be a bunch of people that aren't going to want to live back into the railroad tracks. And so that's going to make it a little bit more challenging to sell.
Same thing with the buyers that you give them all the information and they still want to make sort of a little ball.
Exactly. John Green's dealing with that right now. John's got his first buyer. I think that's why he's not here this morning. Good morning, Bart. Although I'm going to give him a brief about it because, you know, his idea was to do this, you know, listing and go through each of these things in AHA. And so if you're listening, John, maybe it's going to be good for you. But if you're not, I'll give you a brief later about the fact that this is for you and you're not here. But he's got a buyer that's in town and has decided, I think, on a house they want to buy. And he probably wants to come in $15,000 lower than John and I feel like is comfortable. You know, it's low enough that the other person, the other agent, the other seller may get a little bit nose out of joint, and nose out of joint. And so we processed that yesterday afternoon. Just, how do I go about it? And in that situation, you just got to do your darndest to finesse the listing agent and just say, look, these people are from out of town. This is how they've done it where they've been before. They really like the house. My guess is you're not going to accept the offer that they're presenting you. Do that's awesome, but we're not. I'm guessing you're not. So please don't just rip this thing up and throw it in the trash can. Give us a counter kind of thing. But you're absolutely right. And sometimes both on the buyer and seller side, they have to learn first. They have to learn that that sounded like a great strategy that they read about or that their friend told them about, or whatever. But it may not work in their situation. Sometimes they've got to lose something to get that. However, and this goes along with listings, but somebody can not get what they want once, twice, three times, but they're just going to keep on beating their head up against the wall. At some point, you got to say, "Please release me, let me go." I can't do this. I can't help you buy a house if you're going to have this sort of strategy, or I can't sell your house where we're getting these decent offers and you're not willing to do what they need to do. So at some point, as Brian Lafini would say, we got to say bye-bye now, and move on. But anyway, as it relates to the actual presentation, the more prepared you are, the better the presentation. Why? Because your knowledge is going to build confidence. You're just gonna know what you're talking about. You're gonna have everything in sync, and so you're gonna be able to really be confident in the fact that you know what you're talking about. And I really believe that confidence allows you to be comfortable. If you go in nervous, if you go in thinking this is outside my expertise, well, that's going to get communicated, and you're going to feel it, and so you're not going to be as natural. All of us can think of experiences where that would be. It may not even be a business experience. For me, I'll meet somebody that is important, right? They are just like me. They're just an individual, but it's a senator or it's this or that. And I find myself just not communicating like I normally communicate. I'm just kind of awkward, and I know they're only giving me 45 seconds, and so you're trying to whatever. And you hear it. Another place you hear is when somebody calls in on a radio show.
Right.
And they called in to make a point, but they yell, no, they just get, they're all on the air, kind of thing. And all of a sudden, it's different. And that's the same thing here. People, you're going to know it.
But my face getting hot and red.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, the famous people thing, I think it is, because you're probably the type, like most people who are good communicators, who would say, so, Michael, where do you live? Or what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, the famous person, you're not going to ask, like a senator, what does he do? Because you know what he does.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of get a little more creative as far as your conversation.
It's interesting. I just finished a book on relationships. It's called Known, K-N-O-W-N. And it's written by a guy who did a bunch of stuff on Capitol Hill with senators and congressmen and stuff, and helping them build relationships and things. But, he has different things that he asks people versus the normal things. And I tried it the other day at Starbucks. I'm totally off track here for a minute. But it's still, like, when we talk about building rapport, gaining credibility, showing your care works. And the guy's been the barista in Starbucks up in Berkmar for a long time. And he's one of the few people who remembers my name. They always ask your name. Like, if you can ask my name, and I'm in here a lot, you should probably remember it at some point. And this guy, Brad, does. And says, hey, Michael, how you doing? I'm doing great. And I said, what do you do with your time when you're not here? What kind of things do you like to do when you're not working? Well, you could say that to a senator.
Right.
Okay, man, you don't have much time, but when you do,
Right.
what is it that you're passionate about, or what is it that you like? And this guy went into some pretty deep, heavy stuff real fast. I mean, it was like, whoa, I just asked him a question, and this guy, he started talking about, who's Thanksgiving, I was talking about, and he was talking about his dad, and he spends a lot of time with his family, and I don't want to get into what he said because it was really personal, but I got home and I said, honey, I asked this question, and man, it really worked. I mean, this guy just went right into the deep end with me. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this next time I see him? What is it that, whatever. But anyway, the point being is that I think knowledge builds confidence. Confidence allows you to be comfortable because you're confident in what you're going to talk about. It's natural, it's not canned. Even if you use some sort of dialogue, whether it's Brian's dialogue or something else that you've read, that there's a track that you want to, that's all good, but it shouldn't come across as it's memorized. Or that, man, if you stop me at any point, I'm not going to know what to do next, right? The objection handling techniques, which is so important in the actual presentation. If you're stuck to a certain track and somebody wants to go over here first, man, it's really tough to get back to where you want to go. And that's why it's important when we're talking about the actual presentation is that you have something. You have something that you're giving them. You have something that you have that as you're talking through things, one, you're making sure you tell them everything you want to tell them about what you're going to do for them. And two, if you do get off track, if the guy all of a sudden starts talking about some book you read and whatever, that you know how to get back to where you were and not skip a beat, right? As we talked about last week, the digital listing presentation that Chris has done. That's a great piece to send before you go, right? So that they can kind of look through it. These are the things we're going to talk about tomorrow or Wednesday or whenever it is. I want you to, excuse me. I want you to, just look through that, because as we go through it, I want you to know, we're going to check these boxes off as we go. And the fact that you're doing that, there's a good chance nobody else is doing that, right? Nobody else is giving them preliminary stuff, so that whatever. And letters of reference. You get these testimonials. Yes, Chris is putting them on your agent profile, and that kind of thing. But you should have those copies and have them someplace at hand so that if it's a buyer, you hand them, as part of what you're giving them, some of those testimonials so they can read, you know, what a great job you did for that person. Or the same thing on the sellers. And ultimately, long term, you've got letters of reference in any situation. You've got, you know, maybe for sale by owners that you've worked with, or expired listings, or relocation people, whoever. So whoever it is that you're interviewing, because I see it as you're going in for a job. It's a job interview. I'm interviewing to become the representative for you in buying a home. I'm interviewing for you to represent you and market your house to get sold. And so what I used to do is I go through my presentation, and when I got to the letters of reference, I would say just that you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and interview for this job. And when you interview for a job, you should be getting some letters of reference, and I have them here. And then I would excuse myself. I said, by the way, is it okay? I need to just check in on my wife real quick. Can I make a phone call? Well, there weren't cell phones back then, so you go into the kitchen and, you know, use the phone. Because I didn't want to sit there while they read my letters, right? Because it would be awkward for them to be reading about what a great job I do. And I'm sitting there like, what do you think? So I'd go in the kitchen and I'd call the weather or whatever and listen for a while, just so that they could look at it. So when I went back in there, they had an opportunity while I was gone to read this. Or even provide them prior to him. You know.
I was going to say, I've done with my services you will receive thing is kind of what I outlined, so my outline to go through. I usually send that first and then put a link in the email where they can go to the Roy Wheeler page.
To the agent profile.
To the testimonials and Zillow.
That's awesome.
They can go right there. And it helps too when they not only looked over the, you know, what we're going to talk about in the listing presentation, but read the testimonials on their own time. It makes the whole thing so much more natural because it's not the first time they're hearing.
Yeah. And quite honestly, it's not only the first time, but some people learn visually versus by listening, right? And so they read it, and then you come back and reinforce it when you're there in front of them. And so now it's the second time, so it's not something they go, oh, I don't remember you telling me about that, or whatever the case may be. But thank you, I was going to do that. And the other thing, you know, not only Zillow and agent profile, but I would encourage you to build up your LinkedIn site as well, and go to your clients and search for them. If they're on LinkedIn, obviously request that they connect with you, but also say, would you mind going on my page and doing a recommendation under, realtor. If you go to my LinkedIn page, under this page, and Barbara's nice enough, she did a testimonial on my teaching, for GRI, because I'm trying to build up that scenario. So now, like right now, I'm trying to prepare for teaching GRI in 2018. So I'm sending information out to the different training people in the different associations that I want to get on your calendar. Because for me, I love the teaching, but it's really a great way for me to promote Roy Wheeler as a state. Because even though we don't talk about Roy Wheeler there, they know, that in the introduction, I'm the broker and CEO of Roy Wheeler Realty Company, former board member of the Virginia Realtor Association, blah, blah, blah. They know that that's what I am. And so, and I talk about at the GRI meetings, this is a great little group of people to build referral base with people around the state. And so what I'm hoping is that they remember Roy Wheeler, so if they have somebody who's interested in buying something in Charlottesville, and Barb's not in the class, or Susan Rears, or Gavin, or the folks who have taken GRI so far, if they're not in there, but they call me and say, hey, I've got somebody coming in town. And that's happened. It's built up. So anyway, the point being is, I'm sending these things out to these different associations, saying I'd like to be on the calendar in 2018, and I provide them some information about what I do, but I also provide a couple quotes, testimonial quotes, and then a link to my LinkedIn site. Go here for further information about what people say about my teaching, kind of thing. So LinkedIn's another good place. It's like an electronic business card. It's different than agent profile and LinkedIn are similar, but LinkedIn is going to be a little bit probably stronger, because everybody knows what LinkedIn is and that kind of thing. But and then, again, that's the cool thing, is that you can send an email out prior to going to the listing presentation with the digital listing presentation, with a LinkedIn link, with your agent profile, with Zillow. You've got these different links. I'm looking forward to meeting with you on Thursday. Here's some places just to peruse to get an idea of who I am, how I go about doing things. And it's just a great, preliminary scenario. Or vice versa, you go do your one stop, and as you leave, you say, by the way, I'll be sending you an email, this evening with some places where you can go so that, we'll be ready to go when I come back on Thursday. It's that whole reason, I talk all the time about having reasons for doing things and differentiating yourself from other folks. So again, knowledge builds confidence. Confidence allows you to be comfortable and natural. Naturalness promotes assurance. And quite honestly, bottom line is most agents aren't going to be as prepared as you. You do the things we're talking about, there's no way. And there are a lot of agents that just go in and shoot from the hip. They haven't been given instruction in regards to all these different ways about going and doing things. And that can be the difference right there. The seller says, well, this person's done all this business, and yet this person, boy, they were just so much more prepared and gave us so much more information that the other person didn't, or the other person gave us the information. This person really gave me the backup data, behind it. So most agents won't be prepared. So secondly, have a presentation book / handout. There are so many different ways to do it. There's still people that, they just like the hard deal. They've got this, they've got it in a binder, they're going through it, they've got handouts for the prospective sellers to follow along. But you got to do what you're comfortable with, right? Maybe we've got the digital, presentation, and we've got this, but maybe that's just not who you are. And a good example, just last night, Dottie was, hell-bent on getting all of her addresses into the computer as of first year. She's going to use her Christmas cards, and she's going to go through her address book. She's going to get them all in there. And as the new Christmas cards came in with new addresses, she was going to be ready to go. January 1st, she was going to be ready to go. Last night, what's she doing? I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm filling out my address book. I said, you have an address book? I said, yeah, but I got to do it. And Becca had gotten a address book, and Dottie just went, this is what I want. I want to just hold on to it. I want to be able to open it up and go to D and see the information right there. And she was like feeling guilty. But I said, honey, it's what you're comfortable with. And that's what matters. Is how are you going to best use it? If you're not comfortable going in and contact management stuff, you're never going to do it, right? Whereas so she was handwriting all those things in the new book today and throwing the old stuff down on the floor to put in recycling and everything like that. That's totally fine, right? You got to do what you're comfortable with, because what you want to do is exude confidence and a comfortableness with the people, because that is what's going to build rapport with those folks. The data you're going to provide them is going to create the credibility, right? And then the ability to show them you care by the information you send them before, the follow-up in the way that you do it afterwards. It's going to make a huge difference. But having the presentation book or a handout, one, keeps you on track. We already talked about that. It ensures you won't forget something you wanted to say. Mention the MLS or advertising or direct mail or Facebook boosting, or that's what all this is for, right? And if this little brochure of pre-listing, post-listing, so you got the listing, now what? This is all the information that you should incorporate into your presentation. That that these are the things that we're gonna do for you when you list one. Monthly regular newsletters, discounted daily progress stats, social media outreach, weekly listing. All these kind of things you're gonna incorporate into your marketing strategy, and you're gonna provide it. And the reason it's so important, when I say ensures you won't forget something you wanted, you only have to have it happen once. Where when somebody says to you, say to them, for my pressure, for my help and making me a better realtor, why is it that you didn't choose me? Why did you choose this person? Well, if they choose the other person because they sold the house or whatever, that's fine. But what you only has to happen once when you say, well, you didn't talk anything about your online presence. or what you're going to do in regards to using Facebook or Twitter to market my home, or Instagram to market my home. Well, we got all that, but you just didn't talk about it for whatever reason. And that's the only reason you're going to kick yourself down the street, and you're never not going to mention social media again, right? And so that's where the presentation and it's important to provide the information, but more importantly, it's about making sure I know. It's something that they think is important that I don't. That, I got to make sure that I remember that they may think it's something that's more important than I do. And the example for me is managing. Long time ago, I lost an agent to another company because they did direct mail. We did direct mail all day long. I just didn't think it was that big a deal, for the recruiting interview. Well, it was to this person. I can tell you, direct mail was never not mentioned again. In my deal. And again, just for me, I have a track, just like I'm encouraging you guys to have a track. I have 6 things that I make sure I cover when I talk to, whether it's a new agent or an agent that's thinking about joining our company. I cover every time. Name recognition, market share, training, the people that you're going to work around, the management team, and then just the market itself, the things that we do to empower the agents to be as successful as they want. So they may not all come in that order, they mostly do, but I in my mind, I know that I'm checking those off. Have I talked about, that? Have I talked about this? Have I talked about that? To make sure that when they walk out of there, whether it's just a quick 20-minute, just first-time interview, I'm talking about those 6 things. If it's a longer one, then I'm expanding on those things. I'm talking about, I'll get out the training calendar and explain that to them, and I'll do this, and I'll do that. But it keeps you on track, and it ensures you won't forget anything. It gives sellers something to see. Again, I just think it's really important that whatever you're presenting to them, they should have in front of them. Because some people are visual and some people are auditory, right? It's just true, right? And then the next thing is, believe it or not, a lot of agents aren't going to have them. They just come in and they do their thing and they present the thing and they don't have anything, for the seller. I don't understand that. I think you want to give to them what you're preparing. Maybe not to the extent, you may have your own thing, so you don't have to reinvent it every time. In a nice binder or in a online digital scenario, whichever way you want to do it. But something that it has the basic information where they can be taking notes, or as they're thinking about, Ned or somebody else, they can go back and say, well, gosh, the other person never covered this, and they've got that information, they've taken notes, that kind of thing. The next thing is you gotta know yourself, because you've got to sell yourself. And here's the thing: the more successful you are, then you're going to talk about your track record. If you're successful in a geographic area where this listing is, and you've done as much business as there's anybody, you need to make sure they know that. In that situation, you're going to maybe put together out of Paragon just a one sheet, 12 houses have sold over the last 12 months. And isn't that interesting? Out of the 12, 6 of them are mine, right? Either on the listing side of it or the selling side. Yeah, if it doesn't show that, then you're not going to provide that, right? But you can also, moving to the next thing, is the less successful, you're going to stress Roy Wheeler more. Our job here is to provide you all the information that you need so you can go in and say, you want to work with me because not only who I am, but because of what the company is going to help me, support me in. What we want to do as fast as we can is get it to the point where they're picking Sarah because it's Sarah. They're picking Ned or Barb because it's Ned or Barb. And then what really becomes the foundation of what you stand on, you've got all the information. It's a very different thing, but you've got to know where you are in that process, right? People say to me all the time when they come here, the reason they came in to talk is because they know Roy Wheeler is a reputable company and they see our signs everywhere, right? Well, that's a foot in the door for you as you talk to somebody about listing their house, because when you say you're Roy Wheeler, that gives you a head start. Not as much as Sarah, who sold my house, referred me to you, right? That's, that's in the door. That's not just foot in the door, that's in the door. But the point I'm making is the more successful you are, you're talking about yourself and all the things that Roy Wheeler's can provide. If you don't have that track record, well, then you go with Roy Wheeler's track record. So same example, you pull up a geographic area, there are 12 properties, and maybe there's 4 of those properties have either Roy Wheeler on the listing side or selling side. Hand that to them and show them that Roy Wheeler, may not be you, but our company has been involved, and especially if in your 2-step process, 1, you found out that they are interviewing other agents, really important. And 2, can you figure out who they are? Because that can make a difference. If they say it's, they're with XYZ Realty, and you pull up that synopsis of sold in the last 12 months, and XYZ is not on there anywhere, that's a powerful tool to say, well, Roy Wheeler's been involved in 4 of these of the 12. And you don't have to say that XYZ or ABC aren't showing up, or that they only show up one time. They're going to see it because you're going to give it to them. You're going to provide it to them. They're going to see them all. And then when they meet with those people, say, I noticed that you guys haven't really been active in this market. Why would I list with you when there are other companies? And the point of all that is, the more prepared I can be, and the more information I can provide, I don't have to say anything disparaging about anybody else. And we're going to get to it maybe today, but there's a list of questions that you leave with the seller. If you know they're going to be talking to other agents and you're not last, right? Something I brought you that might be helpful to you is a list of questions to ask another agent. And that list of questions you've answered in your presentation, every one of them, right? And then when you go to, they go to Adriel, tell me about, your market share in this area. And that agent had no idea what the market share is. They haven't thought about that. But every time they don't have an answer, there's doubt that gets created. Why does this person know this information and you don't know this information?
The
Go
other
ahead.
day at church, several of us were in the room waiting for our membership interviews to be called out, and this older couple that's been in a class was new. We were kind of getting to know them, and new to town, and mentioned that they're just renting for now. That's on a 5-year city. And I usually don't do that much at church, so giving out my card. It just was perfect time. And she asked who I was with, and I said, Roy Wheeler. And mentioned it's old. Oh, is it the oldest?
Yeah. Yeah.
Always worked for the oldest.
90 years.
Yeah.
In fact, you guys will know about this first, but we've done, they're doing this thing in Daily Progress about Charlottesville 125 years, because that's how long
Yeah.
Daily Progress stood around. So they just did a really nice write-up on Roy Wheeler that is online now, and it'll come out, I think it's the week of Christmas or something. It's an insert in Daily Progress that comes out with all those different stories. And so anyway, it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
They interviewed David and Ann, and so anyway, go ahead.
Well, I figured now that, because I was able to, because she was so excited that I was a realtor, because she said, oh man, I have a Christian realtor, that's great. And so I gave her my card, and so now, hopefully, in these next days and weeks, she'll start seeing Roy.
Right, yeah,
and
yeah.
go, right.
Yeah.
Because, when you're new to town, you're gonna already know about the RE/MAX and the,
Right.
but,
And you've already written her a note, right?
no, but because I need.
You just need to call 977-3700 and ask Joyce who you want.
Yeah,
I'm going
right.
to see if you else
Yeah,
that
I
number.
didn't write their names down.
I need to write them a note.
And then there'll be a little blurb. I think they do a little info.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that, going in, there was another young couple too that just moved here and never, and specifically said that.
Yeah.
So with them, I decided to wait a week or two.
Yeah.
Do it indirectly more. So-
Yeah, I mean, again, even that's a great example of, one, you get the address and, hey, really great talking to you, and it's happy to give you my card. I look forward to helping you in whatever way I can with another card in it. Vice versa, you get the address of the other person and say, hey, I remember you said that you're doing this, and I just want to let you know that I'm a realtor and here's my card. So the first reach out to them is very It's just a note.
Or even more windy than that, just put it on a Roy Wheeler Realty note card and just send them a note saying it's nice to meet him. And then here's my contact information, throw the card in there, don't even mention real estate.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
That would be the, as I said, the wimpier maybe way to do it, but maybe pretty effective.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And the cool thing about, had this happen, the cool thing about the note writing, it really is so powerful. Because more times than not, when they see you next, you're with somebody or they're with somebody and say, Michael, thank you so much for writing that note. That really meant a lot to us. And the other person's like, hearing that. And so there's just this something that happens in the midst of that. And anyway, okay, so this is why we have these outlines. We talked about have letters from past customers and clients. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go over the market analysis. Now, again, if you've already had conversations with them, if they're price sensitive, if they, as an example, they think their house is gonna sell for more than what you do the homework, it's going to. Well, now you're getting in a place where you're gonna have to handle some objections. But it's better to know that than to go in with your market analysis and find it out after the fact, because now you're kind of like a boxer, you're back on your heels now, having to, defend the fact that it's lower, whereas if you can go in knowing that this is a place that I got. Now, I understand that you thought your house was worth this. Let me explain to you why. My analysis shows that it isn't. So you can go over that market analysis and really, really important. I watched a video over the weekend and I'm going to probably use it in the business meeting next Wednesday, but as it relates to building your creating a business plan and that kind of thing. But this video was on there's no shortcut for success to success. You can't take shortcuts to get to success. And this is a great example of it here as far as the market analysis is concerned. There's no shortcuts. You can pull up Paragon and just put it on a piece of paper, whatever, but you not only should be on Paragon, but you should be on tax records. And you should pull up, go into the GIS, like it's in the county or the city or whatever, go into GIS and search it by deed date. Because there's, especially right now, over the last year, or at least the first few months of 2017, there were a lot of private sales that went on that aren't in the MLS. Whether it was, Facebook, I'm thinking about selling my house and it happening, or Zillow, Make Me Move scenario. There were a lot of people that sold their houses without realtors, so it never shows up in the MLS. If you go to the tax records of that particular area and search and find, look through the ones where the deed has been recorded in the last year, there's 2 here. You're putting that in your market analysis. There's a really good chance that no other agent has done that. Well, wait a minute, 2517, that didn't, yes, it was. It sold privately, or they know it's sold because it was a neighbor. And when you have it, you say, I see you found the one that never sold. Oh yes, my records. And I'm pretty sure, I haven't really spent much time in there, but the courthouse retrieval scenario that Carr has offered us, that information's available in that as well. You do all sorts of different searches and sorts as it relates to that. But again, the more the deeper you can be in that market analysis and really look and see. The other thing that's really important is knowing the neighborhood. When you're doing geographic farming and you get an opportunity to list a house in there, hopefully your homework, you've been in every house that's been on the market and that has sold. And so when you're doing your market analysis, you can say, yes, I was working this with John yesterday on this particular property, and there's one that sold for significantly more than the house that his buyer's interested in. I said, yeah, but here's the reason why. I don't know if you saw that house, but and you probably didn't, but it was meticulous. It had a really nice screen porch off the back. They just done a lot of really nice things. Plus, and again, the important aspect is it was sold in March, closed in May. That was the hottest part of the market in 2017. Now, some realtors won't have picked up on that. But when you say this one sold at this, but look at the contract date, look at the sold date, that was right in the frenetic time frame where the house was in good shape and price right, and this one actually sold for more than less. So it says it's probably and in this situation, I knew that there had been a multiple contract, but you can say it probably was multiple because it sold for more. But one was particulars in great shape. But two, it sold in the market time frame that was the most frenetic of 2017. You're saying that, nobody else says that to the seller? That again, it just shows that you are understanding of the trends. And so I know you want this price for your house. Maybe back in March we could have gotten it, right? However, right now, this is where we are. And so depending, you might want to wait to the spring, but there's no guarantee that the spring is going to be like the spring of last year. So anyway, going over the market analysis and really having a really good understanding of what's there, and as you're doing it, and what I would encourage you to do, especially those that haven't done any, is just pick a couple of houses and do a market analysis on them. You can use Paragon, you can use Toolkit, and export the information out of MLS and put it in Toolkit, and just experiment with it so that when you do have the opportunity, you've already done it a couple times, and now you kind of are comfortable with what format you want to go with. Do I want to go with the one in Dropbox that's the generic four-wheeler listing presentation, or do I want to use Toolkit and export that information in and print it out and then include some of my own things, right? Or do I want to do the digital thing and have backup information? So you think about the digital with the five balloons, if you will, the sixth one if you've gotten Chris to do your own personal information. You click on the marketing, right, and it gives you some information, but you're then going to have your own information to go into more depth. That's just the outline. That's just to give people the key points, and then you go to this, and you've got that. And just whatever you're most comfortable with. But I would practice. I would try it and see what feels most comfortable for you. So you're going over the market analysis, and now you're obviously asking for listing. You want to make them realize there's no one better suited to sell their home. If they're interviewing others, ask if they need to now to do it now that they've met with you. I mean, that's a pretty strong statement, and in as many situations you probably don't want to do that. But if you know that you're not the last person they're talking to, is there anything that I have shared with you that I've missed? Is there any reason now that I've shared this with you that I wouldn't be somebody you would want to give me the opportunity to market your home to get it sold? And because sometimes, it's amazing, you all know there isn't one of do you really need to talk to anybody else then? That kind of thing. And they may, in most situations, say, yeah, we want to go through the process. But sometimes they say no. And they say, no, I think, we're ready. And but the big thing is you want to be, asking for it. If they're going to interview others, leave them with the feeling that you had your act together, you came thoroughly prepared, and you're the kind of person that they would like to sell their home. Really, really important that down below, but people make decisions with their heart rather than their head a lot of times. And they're going to make a decision based on do they like you. But if you can be thoroughly prepared, have your act together, provide them all the information they need, then it makes it easy because they not only like you and you're the kind of person that they want to be around, but you've convinced them that you know what you're doing, right? The crazy thing is people still list their home with people that didn't do any of the other. They just liked them. They're a neighbor, or there's such and such as best friend, or whatever. And then, sometimes that works. But a lot of times that is a mistake because people don't know what they're doing, right? So having your act together, coming thoroughly prepared, and then, building that rapport, gaining credibility, showing the care will make them realize that. I kind of envisioned, when I was doing these, my goal was I envisioned as I walked out the door and they shut the door that they turned to each other and said, wasn't he a nice young man? He's the kind of person that, I think we would like to work with, kind of thing. And when that happens, you're going to have more opportunities to get the listing, even if you're competing against somebody that has a much stronger track record, because they may come across very much business-like and provide all the right information, but they didn't do the warm fuzzy part of it, right? and the warm fuzzy is just as important, in my opinion, as the other. So don't ever forget that most sellers are emotionally involved with their home. Again, that's one of the things that you want to do at some point in the process is make sure they understand that once they do put their house on the market, it's no longer their home, it's a house for sale. Really important for them to detach and understand that it's just like soup on the shelf now. Am I going to choose Campbell's or am I going to choose, whatever, right? And so, the packaging of it, the pricing of it, the way it's presented can make a difference of taking that soup can off the shelf versus another one, right? Rationally, they want an agent that's ability to get their house sold quickly and for a lot of money. Irrationally, they oftentimes will give their listing to a friend or whoever they like best, regardless of the effectiveness. Therefore, they've got to like you as well as see you as a professional. Just really, really important to have that sort of mindset. So the next page that you see is what I talked about earlier. If you are knowing that they're going to be interviewing other people, then you want to create, you want to be able to answer these questions yourself, right? And this is a good thing to walk through just yourself, even now, to know these answers so that when you do get ready to do a presentation, and you can change these questions, from a buyer standpoint as well. But answer these questions, do you represent me as a client and operate in my best interest? How would I answer that question if the seller asked me that? How does my office rank in the area as far as market share? How many homes, blah, blah, blah. But the point being is if you are in a multiple listing or a multiple agent situation where they're interviewing other agents, you want to be able to make sure that your presentation answers all these questions in a very positive way. If you can't answer it positive, don't have the question on the sheet, right? And then you leave them with this. And by the way, is there anything else that I can share with you tonight that I haven't? Well, no, I can't think of any questions. No. Well, I know you're going to be interviewing other agents. And so two things. One is if they bring something up that I haven't talked about, I hope you'll give me the opportunity to, that you'll ask me, well, do we do that or how do we do it or whatever. But the second thing I want to do is I want to leave you with a list of questions that I hopefully have answered for you tonight. And I would be wanting to, if I was selling my house, I would want to make sure I had all these questions answered affirmatively, so that I knew I was choosing the right person. So one, you've answered them all affirmatively. You don't have to say that you did, but you're saying if I was selling my home, I would want to have all these questions answered in a way that I felt good about. Two, it gives them something to track and see if the other agents know the market, know the information the way that you do. And you might, think of other things. Certainly a great example of under promising, over delivering. All these things on here, you better, if you're going to say you're going to do them, you better do them. And even better than that, you want to back it up with and it's in the roadmap for success, a 60, a 90, a 120 day marketing plan. What am I going to do in the net? What you don't want to do is front load it in the first couple of weeks, and after the first couple of weeks, say, well, what are you doing for me? You want to stretch it out. You want to do different things in different weeks. There's certain things that can be repeated because they should be, but there are other things that, again, you're coming out the gate, and if you just do it all, like shoot out a cannon, and all the confetti comes out, well, the confetti's on the floor before you know it, and you got nothing left. So, I think this is, hopefully you'll see that this is really, really important. And then marketing checklist. Just if you do, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, decide that you want to, that I'm the person to list your home, these are the things that we're going to do in marketing your home. We're going to make sure everybody in your area knows that your home has come on the market. We're going to edit an MLS. We're going to do a listing office agent tour. If you're not going to do that, don't have that in there, right? But a listing area office tour is that we're going to get, a few agents on a Tuesday or after AHA or whatever to go by a house and take a look at it and give us information in regards to price and condition and that kind of thing. After we get the thing on the market, we get a feel for what's going on with the market. We may want to do a broker open, because we want people to get into it and give us information. We're going to design a flyer, blah, blah. You can read through these. These are all different things. And quite honestly, what I would do is at your leisure, sit down with Chris and go through this, and with what we've been doing recently, are there other things that you want to put on here, right? And this is, I think this is a Word document. So I'm sure if you wanted to, change this to your own, Megan could probably help you with, taking something out or putting other things in. As an example, with this, you do it one of two ways. The marketing checklist. It may not be a house that would be good for open houses, right? And so what you're going to do here is you're going to delete the open houses, or you're going to say to them, this isn't something we're going to do on this property because it's too far out. Where it's going to be a waste of, they're not going to be really anybody through there, and therefore I hate for you to be gone from your house all Sunday afternoon and find out nobody came. But instead, those hours that I usually would spend marketing open houses, I'm going to actually explain to them what you're going to do differently to attract buyers versus the open house. And you might say, after the first couple months, if we don't get the activity, we may decide to do one, but that'll be a conversation we have together. I think that one of the things that's really important when you talk about listings is this is a team effort. You're hiring me to market your house to get it sold. But there are things I'm going to need you to be doing, and there are things you're going to need me to be doing. And one of the things is we need to be in sync as to what we think is the best way to do this. Yes, I'm a professional. I'm going to direct you in the right way. But if there are things that you think about that I haven't thought about, I want you to tell me. I want you to, give me permission to be totally honest with you, so that there are going to be some things that maybe you don't think you need to do, but because I know what the market's doing, you may need to do. Same thing with pricing and those kind of things. And as long as we're together in this thing, then it'll work really well. Whereas if we're constantly battling each other, and if you feel from the get-go that the person's battling you and you're just not getting anywhere, trust yourself with that and say, you know what, this may not be a good match. Somebody really wants to be too high in their price, so they don't want to do the things that they need to do in regards to in the house. Just say, if you're not willing to have a price in this price and do these kind of things to get your house edition, I'm not sure I'm the agent for you, because I can't enthusiastically market it. So what I would, I'd say to you is that, hopefully you can find an agent that will list it at this price and market it in these conditions. But what I would encourage you to do is only sign a short-term listing, maybe 2 or 3 month listing. Because what's going to happen if I'm right, as the agent, if I'm right, within 30 to 45 days, they're going to come back to you and say we need to reduce the price. Or they're going to say we need to declutter this house, or we need to do this to the yard. And I want you to remember that I'm the one who told you that in the first place. And so when the listing time expires, and you now know that it needs to be lower and it needs to be in better condition, I hope you'll give me the chance, because I'm the one who was honest with you in the first place. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Most agents are not going to want to list something for 2 or 3 months, but you're giving them the reason why. You're telling them that you think that they're never going to sell at that price. You're telling them that these are the things that the thermopane or the storm windows are going to need to be replaced, or you're telling them those things. And when they start getting that feedback from the agent, when the agent comes through and they say, oh, well, we liked it, but it's too much for this neighborhood. But we liked it, but there's just too much work to do. Well, when they get that feedback, they remember that Mark Kelly told them that in the first place. So if you can get them to understand why they should sign just a 2 or 3 month listing. Again, here's just another thing from an objection handling technique. If it's a listing that I want, the term is not important to me. I'm not going to lose the listing because they won't sign a 6 month listing. If it's a listing in a geographic area that I'm passionate about, or it's in a good price range, or it's going to be a good sign on the street where a lot of people are going to be driving by it, and they want to list it for 6 months, they don't want to list it for 6 months, they want to list it for more, no problem. They want to list it for 2 months. I'm pretty much good with that too, because, and here's the objection handling technique, some agents are going to want to have it for 6 months, and I get that. I make sense, because it's going to take a couple, 3 months to sell, it take another couple months for it to close, so 6 months comes pretty quickly. However, I truly believe that the way I'm going to go about marketing this house to get it sold, you'll feel like I've done what I did, so that if we get to that 2-month or 3-month period, you'll extend that listing with me. I'm gonna do everything, so there's gonna be no reason for you to want to work with anybody else. So you hear the objection handling techniques there. What I'm saying is, I've said it 100 times already this morning, marketing your house to get it sold. That's really an important message. It's not about marketing the house. It's not about listing a house. It's about marketing the house to get it sold at a price that they're comfortable with, in a time period that they're, that works for them. But the second part of it is that I feel strongly enough and confident enough that I'm going to do my job well, that I'm willing to sign a listing for 3 months. If you're ready to go tonight at 3 months, I'm ready to go at 3 months. And 2 months from now, if we haven't sold it, then we'll have a conversation. We'll talk about what we need to do over the next 30 days, and I'll ask you for the extension at that point. And hopefully, I will prove what I've just told you, that I've done everything I could, that you can't think that there's anybody else that could do that. And all of a sudden, that you're saying it to them, you have confidence in that you're going to do. You're not going to schlep around and not do the things the way they want to do it. So, does that make sense? You follow me what I'm saying there? Okay. The next thing, and we'll kind of finish with this. These are just some CMA adjustment guidelines. They come from appraisers. If you ever looked at an appraisal has the subject property, and then it has the 3 comparables. And they do the 3 comparables, and they go down and they get a price at the bottom. And then you got the blank lines on the subject. The subject either is a plus or a minus. It's plus $7,500 because it has an extra half bath. It's plus $1,500 or $2,000 because it has an extra half bath. Or it's plus $500 or $500 because of the age of the home compared to another one. You understand what I'm saying? But the point being is, this isn't obviously in stone, but this gives you an idea when you're doing your CMA and they have a 2-car garage versus a 1-car garage. You can go to this and say, that can make a difference of X, right? 1-car garage, $7,500, so you're going to get an additional $25,000 to maybe $12,500 more for that second garage, depending on what kind of garage it is, right? The important part about this is a lot of this, it has to do with, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. It just totally went out of my mind, but, I know. Oftentimes, it's not as much about the increase in price as it is its saleability, right? We can price it this way, and we may get that bump, but what it's really going to do is make yours more sellable. You've got a 2-car garage, your house is going to sell sooner than a 1-car garage, if it's priced effectively. You got a finished basement, you're going to get that. So these are just some different, adjustment guidelines. Quite honestly, I can't remember where we got them from. It's probably something we probably would readjust because I don't think it's that old, but some of it may have changed. But again, just to give you some ideas as it relates to your market analysis. The last page, real quick, is you can just look at this at your own, but it's just, again, to help you with your dialogue. Why did I prepare the list for you? Survey showed many homeowners and homebuyers are not aware of the true value that I'll provide during the course of the real estate transaction. Comprehensiveness, this may not be everything I'm going to do, but I really want to give you a good idea of all the things that I'm going to do to market your house to get it sold. One of the really important pieces in the listing presentation, both in Toolkit and in our Dropbox hard copy, is the process. It's not really, a lot of our work doesn't start until there's a contract. Yeah, we're doing a bunch of stuff, but once we get a contract, our work really begins because we got to get through the home inspection. We got to make sure you get appraised. We got to make sure, we follow the buyer's loan and make sure that goes well to, closing. So the comprehensive of it is not just about getting a contract on your home. Your commitment, and each of you, you're going to do this and read through this, and maybe you go with it verbatim, but maybe you use your own language in it in regards to what your commitment is to them. And, we included here this whole aspect of limited services or flat fee or things like that. Again, we talk about this later, but somebody's trying to get you to reduce your commission. one of the most important things you have to do right away, and it solves it more times than not, is split off the buyer side. When somebody says that they're gonna do the listing for 5 or whatever, the important thing in your mind and how you communicate with the seller is 3% is going to the buyer, right? So by my reducing my commission, I'm reducing the services or what I'm gonna be able to, I'm not gonna get paid the way I would if it was at 6%, right? And so please understand that this 3 is gonna stay here. That's non-negotiable. We're not gonna reduce the compensation to the buyer if we reduce the commission. There's some companies that do that. That would be a disservice to you because now you're gonna have agents not showing your property because they're not gonna get paid as much, right? So now we're in this scenario. And then, from my standpoint, the best one in that scenario is to say, if you tell me to reduce my commission and I say, okay, I will, what does that say to you about how I'm going to negotiate the price on your home? If I'm just giving my money away just because you asked for it. Man, when an offer comes in, am I going to negotiate your money hard if I don't even negotiate for my money? I think I'm worth what I'm paying. I think the company does, as we've shown you, all the things that we're going to do for you. So anyway, the point of this is to think through it and know what you're going to say, because when they ask you, you want to be able to answer it in the way that you feel comfortable answering it, versus well, I've got to talk to my broker. As soon as you hesitate, whatever, in some ways you've lost, and oftentimes you lose. And again, there's a variety of choices. Again, in the last line, otherwise engage in service of a realtor and agree to compensate that homeowners should understand exactly what services will or will not be provided. And that's why I've given you all this information, and that's why I've provided you these questions. You want to make sure that whatever it is that somebody is saying they're going to do, that they are, and how they're going to do it. Questions? All right, so we got through 42. Next week we'll go get into more of the, which is kind of crazy. We'll just kind of dive into the, I don't know what it is, 175 different things, and there are probably other things as well. But the whole intent of this is to put you in a position that if someone's ready to list their property, that you kind of walk your way through this, and so you're not having to kind of. It's kind of like we talk about with the buyers. Why we give them the blank contract that says draft on it when we first start working with them? Because we want them to understand the document, so that when they get ready to buy a house, you don't have to explain everything back through them. Same thing here. You need to understand what it is that you want to be saying in that presentation, so that when you get that opportunity, you're not now trying to do it real fast, because you're not going to have the confidence and the knowledge and the comfortableness if you're not comfortable with what you're trying to talk about. And then the other thing too is important is that you may get an opportunity that's just above your pay grade, right? And I've used John Green again as an example. He got an opportunity somebody wanted information about their farm out in Free Union someplace. Well, he didn't know anything about farms, so he took Yona with him. And Yona and him walked through the place and gave them that one step. Now it could be a year from now, because the guy wants to move into town, he thinks. The point being is John knew that was above his pay grade. And he'd much rather go out there and have somebody that can help him, one, credibility, experience there, but two, that you could kind of watch Yona talk to the person and ask questions, so that, that kind of thing. So if you get into a place that's outside your marketplace or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to me and say, hey, who would be the best person for me to team up with on this one? Because you can learn all sorts of things, and the next time maybe you do it yourself, or maybe one more time you do it with another person, and then you take it from there. So, all right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Yona. Good to have you with us. And whoever else is on there.